Okay, this intro calls for something serious, so let's go cursive. Aziza, never mind. Aziza, Kibibi. Aziza, Kibibi. Seriously though. Hey, I'm Aziza Kibibi and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk about a topic that has come up pretty often in my life, especially being a survivor of sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse, and domestic violence. Statistics show that women who were abused as children not only find themselves often in abusive relationships, and I'll get into why that is the case later, but also if they have children, there is a greater chance of their children suffering abuse. So in this video, I want to talk about, or I'm going to talk about with you all, how to tell if a partner has a potential of being abusive. Now, this video is really important to me. In fact, I have been wanting to do this video for a while now, but it's important to me because, of course, not only as a woman and knowing that as women, we are a vulnerable demographic in society, I also have daughters. So I also have friends. I have sisters, I have female cousins and nieces. So, you know, it's really important as far as dating and finding love that we understand and that I help people, I help women identify how to tell if a person is abusive. How to tell if a person has the potential of being abusive. How to tell if a person is likely to be abusive in a relationship. Okay, so if you don't know me already and you don't know my story, I was molested by my father from a very young age. That abuse, that rape ended up resulting in 4 children for him. So needless to say, I grew up in an extremely abusive household. My father was married to my mother, but he was also abusive to her, and just violence was a regular part of my life growing up. I did not escape my father until I was 24, and essentially I did not have a clear understanding on what a functional, normal, positive relationship looked like, because in my parents' relationship there were so many extremes. There was one day that my father was he appeared to be extremely loving and affectionate towards my mom. In fact, in the early days when I was still very young, that's what I saw, that's what I knew. And then anything could just set him off. Anything could just set him off. He could have just woken up on the wrong side of the bed and it was like, stay out of daddy's way because he might beat somebody down, or, you know, you have to make sure your bed is perfect, or there's no forks that are dirty if you wash the dishes, because that may just set him off. And I spent most of my life in fear of being a target of one of his fits. And even then, a lot of times he didn't even have to be angry. So the idea of men, one in general, once I did escape him, was extremely frightening for me. I couldn't even imagine being in any kind of close contact, let alone relationship, with a man. And then to take it even further, the women in his life, many of them, and one particular who molested me with him, confused me about women. So here I am in the world trying to reestablish myself, and I did not know. I had no idea, very little clue of what a functioning, healthy relationship was, platonic or romantic. Okay, first, as I mentioned earlier, the statistics. Now, this is the thing about statistics. I have somewhat of a love-hate relationship when it comes to statistics. I believe the United States Census is a very useful tool in determining who is in the communities and their needs, so on and so forth. But statistics can be manipulated depending on those who are sharing them and what their agendas and intentions are. Not to mention the fact a lot of statistics when dealing with crimes, whether that be murders, reports of abuse, serial killers, robberies, so on and so forth, they are also a little thwarted because it is dependent on what is reported. Because of course, if no one knows that the crime happened, then we don't really have a clear picture of what the actual prevalence of the crime is. And that goes for cases of domestic violence and sexual assault and sexual abuse, because often men and women, boys and girls, are too afraid to talk about what happened to them. So they end up suffering in silence. Now that I've given my disclaimer and my explanation on how I feel about statistics, let's go to the side where they can be useful. And that is to understand information of communities and demographics that are strained, stressed, or vulnerable. The statistics show that, this is according to the National Institute of Justice, which is a government organization based on studies that they have done on reports of women who have been abused. 68% of women that find themselves in domestic violence situations or find themselves suffering intimate partner abuse have been molested or abused as children. 68%. So a lot of theories are circling around about why that is. I'm going to share with you my theory. My theory on why women find themselves in abusive relationships if they had been previously abused or molested as children or as teenagers has a lot to do with self-love and a person's sense of self-worth. This is just a theory, everyone. Please go down to the comments and share with me what your theories are. Now, I have come to this conclusion because of my own experience. Interestingly enough, I have never been in an abusive relationship. Outside of the abuse that I suffered from my father, I feel like the work that I have done on myself to counter all of the self-doubt, the self-loathing, the fear of myself, my void of being comfortable with me and my sexuality, and the impact, the negative impact that he had on my confidence. Since I have worked so hard through those things and have learned to love myself and really learned a lot about who Aziza Kibibi McGill Ayinde is, I hold myself up to a certain standard. Now, don't misunderstand me. Abusers are responsible for the abuse, not victims. Victims and victim blaming is something that we should dispel, something that we should just get rid of, because when someone is victimized, it is not their fault. If you have been victimized, if you have been abused, if you have been hurt by another person, it is not your fault that they decided to hurt you. It is only their responsibility. But one thing we do have to consider is that if you are in a relationship and that partner becomes abusive, or you start seeing signs of abuse, which I will definitely get into next, do you stay with that person? That has a lot to do with how you feel about yourself, what you think you deserve, how you feel, or what worth you think that you have, what value you bring to the relationship and to your partner. Now, while I have not been in an abusive relationship, by traditional standards, what we understand an abusive relationship to be. That does not mean that I did not date people that had the potential of being abusive, because I most definitely did that. I mean, here I was in a whole new world that I was learning how to navigate, and I did not trust my ability to judge character. So I had to learn how to do that. And how I learned how to do that was getting to know people. So yes, once I escaped my father, once I got my children back, once I established ourselves as a family, I did start to date. Or once I feel like I established ourselves enough as a family, because I also had to learn how to be a parent on my own, I started to date. And I was very intent on learning people and recognizing what aspects of the people that I met was similar to my father. So I do have to say, one thing that I took away from my dad was a whole lot of what not to do and a whole lot of what were red flags in men. And those red flags are... I'm getting hot, guys. This topic is making me excited.
The topic is making me
Yes, because I wanted to talk about this topic for a while now. And let me tell you something. So this whole YouTube thing, being monetized, sidebar, being monetized by YouTube comes with a whole other set of like lists of stuff. And one of the things, unfortunately, is that they monitor what kind of content you're putting out there. So I have seen plenty of people in my comments talking about how now I have taken my story and I am making money from it. You know what? First of all, okay, it's my story. It's my life. I can do what it is that I want to do with it when it comes down to it. But actually I don't make a whole lot of, especially with YouTube, because my videos that talk about trauma and talk about how to get over trauma and talk about abuse and everything else are not conducive with advertiser goals on YouTube. So a lot of them are not monetized, FYI. Therefore, I have to continue to find other ways to make money to support making these videos, because cameras, lights, all this stuff costs. And in order to save money, I'm doing everything myself. So if you are so inclined to be supportive, please do so. Go to one of my videos that has a fundraiser on it and please donate. I really hope that this video gets monetized, because yes, it does take time, energy, and money in order to create it, but I'm going to continue to create videos that are going to help people, whether YouTube monetizes them or not. I was doing them before my YouTube channel was monetized, and I will continue to do it after. And those red flags are possessiveness. Possessiveness in another person is a sign of an abusive personality, because it can be narcissistic. That whole idea of you only belong to me. I'm not going to allow you to talk to other people, even platonically, you know, looking over your show, Krishna. And some of those red flags are, wait, disclaimer. I'm sharing this information based on research that I have done, studies that I've done, and my own personal experience. I do not intend to label any one person. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but we do, as humans, tend to generalize things and find patterns. That's what gives us a sense of security navigating this crazy world. So one of the things that I have found that is a sign of someone who can be potentially abusive is possessiveness. If a person always wants to know where you are at the exact time and moment. They want to know what you're doing, who you're talking to, what you're wearing, and they're just all up in your life. Like, hello, dude, we are, or female, we are individuals. We are individuals in this life on our own path. And certainly if we are not married and have not taken any kind of vows saying that we are two parts coming together as one, you go do your thing, I'll do my thing, and when we get together, we can do things. If they're not feeling it and they seem to go off at the drop of a hat, if it seems like, you're talking to somebody that they don't know, whether it be male or female, and definitely jealousies with other men, that's usually a sign of unhealthy behaviors developing in the future. I can tell you from personal experience from my dad is that yes, he had complete control over all of the women in his life. Now, me as his daughter, yes, fathers can be a little controlling of their daughters if they're trying to protect them. The kind of controlling that he was over me and my sisters was not from a place of fatherly love, because I saw him with the same behaviors with all of the women in his life. And honestly, the ones that he was not so gripped on as far as who they was with, who they was around, what they were doing, what they were wearing, so on and so forth, were the ones that he wasn't that into. But the ones that he was, oh yeah, he was like, where you going, who was you with, who was you talking to. And I have seen that in one of my relationships. I saw signs of that in one of my relationships, which I ended, because as soon as this dude was like, oh, well, I want you to delete all of the males in your phone, I was like, oh yeah, no, nope, that is not happening. And needless to say, the relationship did not last much more after that. Another red flag, when a person that you are embarking on a romantic relationship with is extremely insecure and can get jealous very easily. Now, I feel like that this ties into the possessiveness, and it can be misinterpreted as some form of possessive love, which, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, it can be a little sexy, like that whole, like, I just want you to be me, I want to just live in your skin kind of thing, can be a little sexy, it can be a turn on, but it could also go wrong really fast. So insecurities. I feel like men who are insecure or are not confident in themselves won't take responsibility. They do not take responsibility of that insecurity and why they are insecure. Therefore, they put it on you. Oh, well, you make them insecure, or you do things to make them jealous. And to me, that is a sign of someone who could potentially be abusive in a relationship. I'm gonna go back to the prime example, Aswada Yinde. Yes, he would blame my mom for any of his insecurities. If he felt like he was inadequate, whether it be in business or with a woman or whatever, he would blame her. And usually he'd get so angry that it ended up flaring up in some kind of violence. And then he also did the same with me. Now, I feel like maybe with me, it was just a little different because he had already decided like he was God over me and my sisters. So therefore, it was twisted a little bit. But in his relationships with other women, that definitely existed. Anytime he felt a little insecure about something, he blamed that woman. He decided that, well, they were talking too nicely or smiling a little too much, and it ended up manifesting as some kind of punch in the face or slap or abusive sex or rape or something like that, in order to make himself feel adequate and feel powerful. So anytime I see signs, and it's not that, of course we all have insecurities. As humans, we have insecurities, which is natural. I feel like a little envy or even a little bit of jealousy here and there might be a little healthy, because you can actually use that as fuel to improve on yourself and also recognize that your partner or potential partner is desirable. So if you use it the right way, then I think it can be a good thing and it can be healthy. But when it becomes extreme, thanks, Krishna. When it becomes extreme, then there is a problem. And again, I am speaking in general because what it really is about extremes, right? We as people, we have insecurities, we can get jealous, we can be a little possessive, like that's one thing. But it's when it gets to the point where it's just like really just interrupting your life and your ability to grow and progress and enjoy life. That's when it's like, okay, this might be a sign of something bigger. All right, I have 2 more signs. Actually, I think 3 more signs, because one of them does apply to a woman. Another sign is rushing into relationships. I went on this date, guys, y'all, everyone. I went on this date with this man who I watched his child. Both of his children went to school, the same school as my son, and he had to run in and get something because he left something, and he asked me to watch the child in his car. So, okay. Cool. Okay, I'll watch your kid. That's fine. When he came back, he used that opportunity to talk to me. He told me that he was so thankful for me helping him out that he wanted to take me out on a date. So, he was attractive. He was cute. He was... First, the question... Are you seeing anybody? Are you with anybody? Are you married? There was no ring on his finger. He said he was in a relationship. Okay, cool. So we go out on a date. We went out. He took me to the Cheesecake Factory. Really nice. Had a good time, good conversation. There was some vibing there. We get into it. I'm very upfront. I am upfront with what I will and will not tolerate in a relationship. Also, what my expectations are when it comes to any kind of intimacy. Like, okay, I don't force the conversation, but I'm not afraid to have those conversations from the jump. Anyway, so it came out in our conversation that I do not engage in sexual activities with someone that I'm not in a committed relationship with. Okay, cool. We go home. I ask him more about his kid's mom, who he's specifically or supposedly not with, and he tells me how she's kind of crazy. Now, it's interesting. Sidebar, that's one thing. When a man talks negatively about his ex, like putting them down, calling them crazy, dumb, stupid, if he's talking, especially if she's the mother of his kids, if he is talking negatively in that capacity about the mother of his children, whatever could have happened in their relationship, you don't know me. You don't know me from Adam. I may know her. She couldn't be my friend. She could be my cousin that you never met. But you are bold enough to have this conversation putting down another female with a stranger, someone you just met. Now that's a sign. Someone putting you down or putting another person down to you and they really know you, that is a sign that someone could be verbally abusive. And honestly, I have experienced that. Yes. I know I kind of jumped ahead. I'm going to get back to this story. But this puts me in mind of one of my most recent relationships where I knew this person before we got into a relationship. I knew him and the person that he was with before we got into a relationship of our own. And I would notice every now and then he would kind of try to humiliate his partner at the time. He would criticize her in front of people. And honestly, yes, it put up a red flag in my mind. But, and I'm sure, ladies, you can attest to this, women, we are nurturers. A lot of times we kind of overlook some things because it's like, maybe there's something else about them that's really attractive, or you figured that maybe they just don't know, or they're ignorant to it, or maybe their mama didn't teach them any better. Well, I'm gonna tell you one thing. Something like this, and I have to say, I use my relationships sometimes as experiments. I did notice this. The times that I was around him and his partner, he would make light of it. It seemed like it was just a joke, but I could see that she was kind of bothered. Okay, fast forward 2 years, they break up, blah, blah, blah. I started seeing him romantically. And sure enough, he started doing the same things to me. And I'm like, hold up. Now, as a woman, I know we have, and I'm sure you have too, seen behaviors, respectful behaviors. I'm one that believes in, if you're out with your partner and you have issue with something that your partner does, you don't just call them out in front of other people. You pull them to the side and you say, look, honey, blah, 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 so on and so forth. That's the way I do things. This public humiliation, I'm going to reprimand you in front of somebody, I'm not with that. I think that that is demeaning, and I think it's very inconsiderate of you as someone that's doing it to another person, and honestly very mean, and it's very bullyish. It's very bullish. So when he did it to me, then I was like, okay, this is you. And it actually did turn out that he was extremely insecure, and he would take these opportunities to make himself feel better by putting the person that he was with down and humiliating them in public. So definitely for you young girls, if you are in your teenage years or your young adult years, you come across a man or a woman who seems to be intent or is very inconsiderate of your feelings dealing with a situation, and they may be right. You know, you may have done something that was embarrassing. You may have done something that they don't agree with, or we all make mistakes. But to call you out on that mistake in front of another person or in front of a group of people and humiliate you, it's like, okay, it's already bad enough that I messed up. You're bringing it to my attention. I have to deal with whatever comes along with that. But now you're going to highlight it to everyone around me. In my opinion, that's a sign, which is one of the reasons why I'm not with that person anymore. Okay, now back to my story about that dude. Another sign, the dude that I met with the kid who was telling me that his girlfriend or his baby's mother was really crazy and all over the place. He wanted to rush into a relationship. He just wanted to be like the next date, he was like, okay, I want you to be my woman. And I was like, whoa, you don't even know me. Like, we don't know each other. Now, in giving him the benefit of the doubt, I think that may have been fueled by the fact that I told him that I'm not intimate with anybody unless I am in a committed relationship with them. So I think he thought that maybe if he was just like, I'm gonna lock you down, then we could have sex, and I don't know, that could have been a part of it. But in addition to that attitude of wanting to rush into a relationship, he was blowing my phone up. He was like texting me every second, calling me every second. He wanted to be around me every minute. And in some cases that may seem romantic, but honestly, don't you got a job? I know I got one. Don't you have kids to take care of? I know I got one. And all of this, like, wanting to be in my face all the time, to me was just a sign that they were in the end, or could become, extremely possessive in an unhealthy way. So I'm going to use that to segue into types of abuse, because there is intimate partner violence, which is physical abuse in a romantic relationship, but there is also such thing as mental abuse, spiritual abuse, psychological abuse. Have you heard of gaslighting? If you don't know, check it out. Financial abuse, which, check out this video, because I shared about how my father financially abused me and other people. There are just different forms of abuse, and when it comes down to it, relationships should be safe. They should be safe. Now, yes, they can be a little scary because you're getting to know another person, but you should feel secure in a relationship, not afraid. You should feel loved and appreciated, not disregarded and tossed to the side. You should feel warmth. You should feel welcome. You should feel essentially love, not just a complete inconsideration, humiliation. None of those things should exist. Now, I understand people make mistakes, but if that mistake is made, then it should be learned from, and there should be progress made. And if it's not there, then you got to take care of you. You have to love you first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure mostly ladies, love you. Hey girl, how you doing? I'm one person. I'm not perfect. I am a work in progress, but let me tell you something. I have certainly progressed. And I analyze and I pay attention, and I analyze myself and what progress I have made in my life and is in my development and on my journey as a spiritual being, having a human experience. And I've gathered a lot of information. Combine that with all of the journal articles that I read and the books that I read and everything else. And I am just trying to share what I've learned. Take it, process it, share with me in the comments things you disagree with, things that you agree with, if you've experienced some of the things I'm talking about. Maybe you even have examples of some of the red flags that I have brought to attention. And I know there's definitely more. There's more. Now, one thing I don't want to do is label new people that come into my life and act like, or I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to move forward in my life, getting to know the world, getting to know people, afraid, right? But unfortunately, people have the potential to do some really, really messed up, sick, demented, evil stuff. And I'm just trying to avoid it, and I'm trying to help you avoid it as well. So hopefully you can take some of these red flags that I have learned through my personal experience that I'm sharing with you and share them with somebody else, or apply them to your own life. That would be great. And you would help me fulfill the purpose of making this video. So on that note, thank you for watching. I love making these videos, and they are a lot of work, but I love speaking to you all and sharing my experiences and hopefully giving you the opportunity, and also me the opportunity, to help someone else, because we go through a lot in this life. And any negative experiences that we may have had, or challenging experiences that we may have had, does not have to be just because. It doesn't have to be just because. And I hope that some of the things that I have learned, and yes, I have taken plenty of missteps, let me tell you, I could guide someone else. And I have children. I do have children. As a mom, I have to use my experiences. And the crazy thing is that they have been there for a lot of this stuff. But I try to have conversations, and they're listening now and me doing this video. So they probably taking more stuff. And hopefully they will share it with their friends and everything else. And you will share it with the people in your life. And we can just really talk about it and maybe improve on some of the things and identify other things, So that being said, my name is Aziza Kibibi. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Hello, my new subscribers. Thank you for your support, and for those who have been with me from the very beginning. I love you. So thank you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you press that subscribe button, hit that bell, set those notifications, ignore Krishna, so that you can be notified when I do more videos. And tell me what you think. All right? On that note, see you next time. Be blessed, for you are a blessing. Bye.